Hey, Scott from MyGrowthRings.com here once again is in my garage shop, and welcome back to the follow-up video from the weekend video that I call Stumped Q&A. The weekend video this last weekend, we were messing around with the procedure to install and align the knives in the Shopsmith jointer, and we'll get around to a bunch of questions, a bunch of comments. But I do want to remind you that we have activated the channel membership, and the new policy is the Stumped videos will be live for 1 week, and then they go into the Disney Vault and are accessible to channel members. I want to thank the 36 channel members we have now, so thank you all very, very much. And last week's video will now be found in the community tab for all the channel members. All right, so let's just go to the beginning of the questions and see how things go. So Wood Sprout said, should the tab on the bottom of the fence touch the infeed table when the fence is tightened? Okay, what he's talking about here, I think it's a he, I don't know, is Wood Sprout a male or female name? Anyway, the fence here on the jointer is clamped to the front rail, and then it does rest right here on the infeed table. And what he has experienced is something that is not uncommon when the jointer gets abused. Either somebody has over-tightened, overzealously tightened that front clamp, or perhaps it has been dropped or maybe even lifted at some point by the fence. So as you tighten at the back, if you notice that that is lifting up off the infeed table, what's happened is this cast aluminum part on the back has been damaged and needs to be replaced. It is such a common part that it's on Shopsmith's, I think, like 17 most replaced items that you find on their website. So yeah, it's a bummer. And let's see, Thomas immediately responded to that and said that I can confirm that a deformed fence clamp is the issue. And he's the one that pointed out that it is frequently ordered. And then Wood Sprout also said, just kind of asking everybody in the comment section, did anybody buy the Shopsmith add-on fence, or did they make one? Wishes that he had a taller fence. So somebody jumped in, said Dana said that Dana added one, and like I said, it's simple to build, very, very easy. Now there are 2 holes on the fence here, and you can bolt an auxiliary fence to this, giving you a taller or longer fence. I've not built one for this one. I have one in my other shop, but all of this reminds me, I want to tell you, we're going to do one more video on the jointer this weekend. So it'll be the next one that we record. And in that, we'll go ahead and make a fence extension for this. And I'll show you a little trick that I like to use. Me 58651. By the way, just if you don't know about me, I'm dyslexic, so reading a series of numbers and letters, anything is likely to come out, but I think I did that slow enough. Said that I broke a coupling when he tried to use the jointer without speeding up the Mark V. So basically the cutter head was running too slow, pushed a piece of wood into it, it stopped the blade, which in turn broke the power coupling. You know, there's a lot of engineering that has gone into this thing, and many, many years of perfecting that engineering. We'll get a question a little bit further on asking what I would do if I needed to buy one. I'll just cut to the chase. Go ahead and get an original one from Shopsmith. It doesn't matter to me if you buy it used or not, but don't mess around with this. It is designed to fail if it needs to. Imagine pushing that board into a jointer that's going too slow and not having that fail, then something else has got to give. And it may be the blade, it may be the board getting kicked back at you. Lots of tools, if there's a problem, could possibly damage something, and you don't want to damage the headstock, you don't want to damage the tool, and you don't want to damage yourself. That's worth buying an OEM part, in my opinion. CW said, cleaning up a 40-year-old jointer, talked about the rust. He's going to go ahead and remove the blades, remove the wedges, and then asked, should I wax them? It's actually a really good question, because if you've already got one that's rusty, you might think, gee, I should wax this before I reassemble it. Actually, you shouldn't. Where the knives rest against the cutter head and where the wedges rest against the knives, there shouldn't be any rust. I'm sorry, shouldn't be any wax or oil there. You really want to clean those up. However, where the blade is exposed after it's installed, it doesn't hurt a thing to go ahead and apply some wax there. Just be really careful that you don't cut yourself running your hand across those. Robert asked, how much does the Shopsmith joiner weigh? It weighs 55 pounds as it is. So add an extension fence onto it, you're adding weight to it. This is why, one of the many reasons why I leave it mounted right on my Mark V. There's also been questions about the clone jointers. Total Shop made a 4-inch and then eventually evolved into a 6-inch. There's a bunch of 6-inch versions out there. The 6-inch Chinese and Taiwanese joiners weigh about 100 pounds. So while they're fine joiners, boy are they heavy. So I would give a lot of thought before I would recommend getting one of those joiners. Another Robert said, I have an older joiner with the short wedges. Can the longer wedges be retrofitted? What we're talking about are the metal wedges that hold the blade in place. I remember when they first introduced the wedges, there was some thought that, yeah, you could go ahead and use those on your old style joiners. And while you can, the problem with it is you can no longer access the height adjustment screws. So you really can't. So no. I mean, you can, but no. John, who happens to be one of the My Growth Ring channel members, thank you, John, said he knows a widow with a 6-inch Magna jointer. Magna was the original manufacturer of the Shopsmith line, Magna Engineering. And we had some banter back and forth, and then he found out from this gal that actually, no, it was a clone. So same thing I told you. The problem with the clones, too, is they haven't been made for 20 plus years. They're not an exact copy of the Shopsmith. In fact, I'll insert a picture here, I think. This shows the cutter head on that 4-inch Total Shop joiner, and it uses the gibs that are found on many joiners, where you've got a gib, kind of like the wedges, but not wedge shaped, that have bolts that are driven into their face, and you back those out, and that cramps the blade down inside of the groove in the cutter head. And this is nerdy stuff, sorry. Anyway, don't buy a 6-inch Total Shop joiner if you can avoid it. Scott said that he's replaced his joiners, or is replacing his Shopsmith joiners bearings. Was curious if there's some stopping point as he presses those new bearings on. Yeah, there are shoulders on that cutter head that you can just press them right to that point. Thomas said that he saw instructions for mounting a joiner on a Sawsmith radial arm saw. He went on to verify or confirm not a Sawsmith 2000 table saw. So over the years, there have been 2 machines called Sawsmith. The Sawsmith radial arm saw that was introduced by Magna Engineering, and then Magna Engineering was purchased by Yuba. So the Sawsmith radial arm saw was produced by Yuba for a time, and then Yuba sold that line to a company that became Magna American. So there are actually 3 different companies that made the Sawsmith radial arm saw. Nerd level information, I own one of each of those 3 Sawsmith radial arm saws. They're variable speed, and they can power the special purpose tools, the SPTs, like the joiner. So what's also funny is Thomas mentioned that he found some information about it on the Shopsmith Tool Hunter blog. Guess what? That's me. I have 2 blogs that relate to Shopsmith equipment. One is called the what is it? It's shopsmith-tool-hunter.blogspot.com, and the other one is tool-hunter.com. And they have completely different reasons to exist. I think I linked to those in the video description. Let's see. G said, can you verify that the Shopsmith joiner will operate on a Total Shop machine? Yes, a Shopsmith joiner on a Total Shop machine. Likewise, a Total Shop joiner on a Shopsmith machine. They will function. Larry, another channel member. Thank you, Larry. Um, Larry noted a few differences with his Shopsmith joiner from mine in the video. And then after pointing out a few differences, he also mentioned that his joiner was made in 1955. Yeah, it's amazing that they're so similar that many of the parts are interchangeable. You can add this feather guard, you can add the dust chute, you can put the new cutter head in there in a 1955 joiner. Isn't that amazing? Let's see, Bill said, any scale checks or adjustments from the depth of cut or the fence angle? Yes, I did a video on the joiner that describes this, but there is a depth gauge on the front and there's an angle gauge or a protractor on the back of the fence. I will link to that video in the video description. And then maybe we'll show that again this weekend when we talk one more time about the joiner. Thomas said, never seen the trick of aligning the knives using a straight edge, and he owns many copies of the Power Tool Woodworking for Everyone book, which is one of the really the Bible of the Shopsmith machine. Yeah, I didn't learn that at Shopsmith. I want to say I learned that from my dad, but it's a technique then that was shared when I was an academy instructor at Shopsmith. But I don't think I don't think I've seen it in print. Gathering Splinters, again, thank you for sponsoring the channel, says that he has a Shopsmith dial indicator for setting up the blades on the Shopsmith joiner. He asked if I had used it to set up, no, theirs I have not. I have installed using a couple different gauges. I have for another joiner, a Delta joiner that's back in my shop, I have a Magna set. You might be curious about that. The Magna set does not work at all with the Shopsmith joiner because of the wedges and the way the blade adjusts. But it does work on those other joiners that have the gibs and the bolts that hold the blades in. But the question was about the gauge. I tested a gauge that was pretty expensive. It was over $100, and decided that, you know what, for me it didn't make any sense. I'm so used to using the straight edge that I wouldn't recommend spending that kind of money. Well, then I got to thinking about it, and it really got to bothering me. And so I did some research, and I found a gauge, and I bought it. And this arrived just moments ago, which is why we're not actually playing with it right now. You can see that this is a digital gauge. It has rare earth magnets. It is a plastic body, but this is designed for doing things like setting the knives on a joiner. And this is newer. This is a new model. You can see it's got a knob right there that allows this to be flipped over and to be used either left or right-handed. Now, the way it's set up right now is perfect for the joiner because I could see the scale from the front. But for other functions that this thing will do, you might prefer to have that flipped over. Well, the new model does. This thing on Amazon sells for, don't quote me on this, but it's like $37, $27. So, of course, I'll link to that in the video description, but maybe you want to wait until the weekend video and we'll actually try this, see how it works out. Kind of excited about that because that's really a great price for a tool if it works. Jim pointed out that the techniques I was using could apply to aligning the knives on any joiner. That is true. Jim is also looking for a speed chart for the Shopsmith. My advice to Jim is it's found in your owner's manual. It's found in the Power Tool Woodworking for Everyone book. And several times over the years, Shopsmith has sold a cardboard version or a cardstock version, and some of them are laminated. And those oftentimes wind up on eBay. So if they're not available now at shopsmith.com, I would check eBay, see if you can find a used one. Gathering Splinters also said, what are your thoughts on third-party blades, the knives for the Shopsmith joiner? Don't do it. You know, we talked in the weekend episode about how the knives here are wedge shaped. The aftermarket blades you'll find are not wedge shaped, and so you're taking a risk with your safety. I wouldn't do it. Somebody also asked about replaceable knife or disposable knives for jointers. You can buy these little holders that hold a disposable blade. I reached out to two companies that make those. Both of them said that Shopsmith, that they don't have anything for the Shopsmith joiner. they obviously know the challenge is the advantage of the wedge, but the disadvantage being it would be something completely new they would have to create. Small Town Machine Shop, also a channel member. Is there a spec for how much the blade can be sharpened down to before the blade is unusable? Yes, it's 11/16 of an inch. For our Canadian friends, that's 17.5 millimeters, give or take a little bit. Davinsky said that he broke his power coupling in debating between buying a stock and an aftermarket. We've already answered that, but that's the answer. Just go ahead and get a Shopsmith coupling. Bob said, I've always struggled with keeping my fence square when tightening. Are there any tips or tricks? Again, I think I showed that in the other video, but I'll show that this weekend. Um, yeah, kind of have a tip. Why am I not doing it now? It's late, guys. I'm sorry, I'm getting a really late start. It is 10:30 p.m. on Thursday night, so I'm already a day late, and I'm just late for this. Jude said, "Is there a helical cutter head option?" Again, no. I've reached out to several companies. I've never found one. I had an idea at one point because you can get a cutter head that would fit on a shaper that is available in a 4 inch. But then you got to go into getting a spindle to mount it on and adapt the bearings and so on. So at this point, no, there is not. Dana, channel member, thank you, said a brief demo of the rabbiting operation would be interesting to see. I agree. Several other people agree. Let's do that this weekend. I promise you we'll get that done. And then Josh said, I feel like stumped may be a little ominous name for talking about the joiner. I don't disagree with that, Josh. I'm just joshing you. Don't forget, this weekend we'll cover all those things. If you're curious about this channel membership, there's a link in the video description that can walk you through what that's all about. The advantage is these midweek follow-up videos will be live for a week before they go away, and then you would have access to those. There's other benefits as well. If you're interested, I would check that out. All right, that's it. I'll see you this weekend. Make it a great week.